Why did the calendar feel important? Because it knew it was a top priority every single day. You don't get it? Me neither. What you've just witnessed is a truly bottom of the barrel piece of content creation. You see, I really wanted one of my typical kind of, jokey intros, but I couldn't for the life of me think of a joke that related to today's topic. So what did I do? I visited the very child-friendly land of AI, and I just put in a little prompt. I said something like, "Hello mate, could you please give me some jokes about priorities, cheers." And it spat out that tragedy and like 9 others. Leaving that in the past, the title of today's video is very true. A fool's priorities do in fact constantly shift. The inconsistent and often mess of priorities within a man's life causes him to get quite poor results. Kind of like that calendar joke that we decided to leave in the past just a minute ago. What are your priorities? Well, your priorities are a set of important and often regular branches of your life. If you're in a relationship with a woman, that's probably going to be quite an important branch of your life, hence it's going to be a priority. If you're in high school and you go 5 days a week, that's going to be a pretty big part of your life, hence a priority. Your priorities are the most important and the most regular things in your life that matter the most, and everybody has them. But not everybody has them figured out, and even less people have them figured out and firmly in place. Let's take a look at the priorities of the most effective man, for example. This is the man that gets shit done. He sets goals and he smashes them. He locks in on an issue within this world or within his personal life and he fixes it. This is the true action man and the guy who makes moves, and in doing so has great effect on the world and the quality of his life. Kind of sounds like the dream man a little bit. Here are some of the priorities within this man's current era of his life. 1, he has a triathlon that he's been training for a little while, in maybe a few months. 2, he has a very lovely relationship with a very sweet woman who he cares about a lot. 3, he's in the process of learning piano because he has a sort of newfound passion for music and he's pursuing it, which is fantastic. And finally, he's writing a book about an ongoing issue within this world that he's really passionate about fixing. This bloke is a bit of a busy bee. He's got quite a bit going on, but lucky for him, he understands the importance of priority management and the best way to go about it. This is how he's decided to order his priorities. The most important for him is the book that he's writing. As a masculine man with the passion to contribute to this world and actually help with something, he's decided that helping to fix this issue that he's really passionate about is the most important priority to him right now. Second, he's realized that he's really wanted to literally crush a triathlon ever since he was like a child. And so training for this one is the second most important branch of his life right now. Thirdly, he's acknowledged that his relationship with this woman right now is very healthy. And although he doesn't want love to be a sort of main priority of his life in this current season, he loves this woman a lot and has decided to make his relationship his third priority. And lastly, he's following this passion of learning the piano, but it's just not as important as the top 3 priorities, and so it goes at the bottom. If his day consisted of 4 activities or events, each of them aligning to one of those important branches of his life, so one of those priorities, he would prioritize them accordingly to how he's planned. For example, let's say he has a super packed day tomorrow, like an incredibly packed day. He has to meet his woman for dinner, put maybe 2 hours into training for the triathlon, write the next few pages of his book, and he even wants to put a little bit of time into practicing the piano. This is how he would plan his day. The first activity that he would do in this day is writing the next few pages of his book, because this aligns with his number 1 priority of obviously finishing the book that is going to help this issue within the world that he's really passionate about fixing. The second activity he would do in this day is maybe putting a few hours aside after writing the next few pages of the book to train for this triathlon that he really wants to crush, because you guessed it, this aligns with his second most important priority. Next, he would put aside some time to have dinner with this woman. This also works out great because now he can focus more on being loving and present now that he's finished his hard work for the day. Lastly, if he has time at the end of the day, he'll put maybe half an hour, maybe an hour into practicing the piano. Sounds like pretty basic stuff, and it is. Here's where it gets a bit tricky. This man's just got a little ping on his phone, and he checks it. He picks up his phone like this, and he checks it. I don't know why. Hey boo, I'm not gonna be able to make it at this time today, the time that we planned, but I can make it earlier, she says. So his woman can no longer make it, at the time that they planned, but she can make it earlier on in the day, this will likely collide with either one or two of his above priorities, so his first and second priority. The issue with this is that earlier on in the day is likely going to collide with those higher priorities of training for the triathlon and writing the book. The man has two options here, and they're very simple. He either shifts his priorities around just for that day and moves this present time with his woman above training for the triathlon, or he doesn't. What do you think he does? It's a very unfortunate situation, but he lets his girlfriend know that he's going to be busy at that time. You know, he's already planned his day, and reassures her that they'll definitely sort something out for the end of the week. Of course, she's a very lovely, understanding woman, and so she respects and appreciates his occupation. He is also a very kind, loving man, and so he communicates this very well. Bit of an unfortunate situation, but the priorities remain firm. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you have to be completely inflexible and stubborn with your priorities 100% of the time. Let's say, for example, this man has been firm in his priorities for a very long time and made huge progress. Him and his woman haven't seen each other in a while for some reason, and it's a very sort of lovely, anticipated event. Then it's a bit different, right? And you can definitely maybe shift a priority here and there to make it work. There's a very good blueprint that this man used here to analyze the most important parts of his life and order them from most important to least important. This blueprint also allowed him to remain firm in these priorities, and we'll get to that right after we take a look at how a fool treats his priorities. The fool is typically the man who has big dreams, wants to feel purposeful and get shit done, but is an absolute sucker to distraction. Because of this, the results that he produces are often not all that impressive or high quality. We've all been a bit of a fool when it comes to priorities. Maybe you're still a fool because you're watching this video. Let's say, for the sake of time and simplicity, that this man has the exact same life as our action man, for example. The first difference is that this is the first time in a while that this man has planned his day according to his priorities. But nonetheless, he's in the exact same situation as the first guy, except maybe this time his girlfriend's asking him to come over her house, like before they go out or something. She puts a little winky face or something cheeky on the end of the text. This man now has a decision, probably actually a tougher decision than the first guy. Will he sacrifice his valuable time spent training for the triathlon or writing the book to mash booty cheeks? Or will he remain firm in his priorities? He ends up giving in to distraction and temptation and shift his priorities. So let's break down the difference between our two guys. With our second guy, our fool, we can take away 3 key points. 1, his priorities are weak and shiftable. The temptation to have a little bit of fun with his girl was enough to shift the priority of his relationship, or more specifically sex, from originally being established as 3rd in this list to 2nd or maybe even 1st. Along with this, he's not consistently conscious of his priorities or the process of setting and planning according to them. This is the first time in a while that he's actually planned his day in accordance to his priorities. And so that lack of awareness most of the time makes this very important process of getting results even more difficult. Lastly, and probably most importantly, his priorities were instant gratitude based. This means that what influenced him to shift these priorities around was the opportunity for some instant gratification, some instant pleasure and satisfaction. When we compare these 3 points to the takeaways that we could take from our effective man, we see quite the opposite. His priorities were strong and he was strict and stern on keeping them the same. Even with an unfortunate situation like his woman no longer being able to make their date, he didn't let that hinder his analysis of most important to least important and found a workaround without shifting his priorities. Unlike our other guy, he seems to be pretty aware of the order of his priorities and the process of structuring your day according to them. He's a regular at this kind of thing, a bit of a veteran. Lastly, and once again, most importantly, his priorities were delayed gratitude based. In reality, he probably would have preferred to spend, lovely, comfortable hours with his woman as opposed to hours sweating whilst he's running and swimming and biking, which technically means that spending time with his woman and shifting his priorities was his preferred result. It was the result he wanted more. But why didn't he shift his priorities for it? Because we should kind of shift our priorities for the results that we want the most. Spending this relaxing and not sweaty time with his woman was merely a short-term desire, what we like to call a lower desire or an outer layer of the deeper results that you want. It may have been the result that he preferred that day, but it certainly wouldn't have been the result that he preferred in the long run. If you want to make moves in your life and actually see results in your work, follow this blueprint to act more like our man of action than our fool. Step 1. Order your priorities with one rule: delayed gratification. Firstly, you have to take the time to sit down and think, or preferably journal, about what are the biggest branches of your life right now. Then, when you've identified these priorities within your life, begin to order them from most important to least important using the very simple rule of delayed gratification. What are the results you want the most within the semi-distant future? Whatever they may be, which of these priorities and big life branches will get me the most desired long-term results? If you really want to get this business finally off the ground and start making some money, put working on business at the very top. If you think you want the results of health and living a healthier lifestyle a little bit more than the money from the business, put your healthy sleeping and diet habits first instead, and maybe move business work down. Do the things that cast the most votes for your most desired long-term result. Step 2, remain aware of these priorities every day. It's one thing identifying these really important branches of your life and ordering them, but it's another thing remaining consistent in using this information and process. Pretty useless if you know what things you should do most and give higher priority to, if you don't consistently do these things. I personally plan all of my days the night before. Work and my mission is currently my #1 life priority, and so if I have gym tomorrow and I'm seeing some friends, I'll make sure the first thing I do is work, no matter what. I'd highly encourage you to do the same. Structure each day around these new, delayed gratification based priorities. Stick it on your wall or set a recurring alarm for a certain time every night to remind you to plan the next day. I would say everybody structures their days around their priorities anyway, even if it's subconscious, but with most of us, it's on autopilot and our priorities are set in order of our short-term desires, which of course is the wrong intention. Step 3, fortify the consistency of these priorities. Now I can lie to you and be a little materialistic sellout crab, sell you a magic potion with a link in the description that just kind of automatically makes you as consistent as our effective man. But the unsexy reality is that it just takes discipline. When our fool was distracted by the temptations of his woman, he ended up shifting around his list of priorities and probably didn't end up making very good progress. If he was more disciplined and focused on the distant future him as opposed to the near future him, he would have remained stern and stiff in his priorities, all puns intended. What makes our effective man so effective is consistency and daily votes towards activities that drive him closer and closer to those desired results. This consistency is only achievable through discipline and, in a very weird, paradoxical kind of way, prioritizing your deepest long-term desires over your short-term desires. This is how you guarantee results in life, and it's how every man of action gets shit done and leaves a positive mark in this world and his own life. I'll finish this one off with another little joke from the GPT. I tried to prioritize my life, but my snacks always came first. Guess you could say I have pretty chewable goals. What does that even mean? Doesn't make any sense.